What's up, Otaku fam? We are back with some more Casual Geographic. Actually had a new video come out not too long ago, so now we get to check out one of his newer videos. The science behind why birds find us attractive. Is this information that I need to know? Not really. But I'm intrigued. Sure.
Sickened but curious.
Exactly. Thank you guys for the continued support. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. Every little bit helps. Let's hop on in.
How does this keep happening? All you did was go bird watching with your friends to hopefully learn more about the world around you. Instead, all you've learned is that life, not unlike this bird, comes at you fast. That's how you end up with an aggressive on your back. And yes, that is this Chernobyl pigeon's other name. He's not the only victim. There's an uncomfortably extensive history of birds of every feather trying to make two beasts with one back together, with humans, including the biggest birds currently walking the earth. The rabbit hole of illicit avian liaisons goes way deeper than even I was expecting, and if I had a nickel for every time a bird tried to make a man his wife, that amounts to more sense than a man that just sits there and lets it happen. What you're gonna learn is the chance a down bad dinosaur tries to force you to crash cloaca is low, but it's far from zero. But sometimes it's not the bird's fault. Parrots are a lot like us. They're highly intelligent, they can talk, and they have erogenous zones just like humans. Think of the Seven scene from Friends. The problem is, if you pet them the wrong way, they will feel some type of way. It's been said that you should only ever pet your parrot above the neck. The beak, the cheeks, the top of the head are all okay. The wings, the back, the belly, and the chest should be avoided since those are spots only their mate in the wild would touch. Not only can touching them turn you into your parrot's mate in their eyes, you can also trigger hormonal imbalances along with behavioral issues like biting, screaming, feather plucking, excessive self-service, and even self-mutilation. In fact, in some cockatoos, it can even cause cloaca prolapse. Don't Google that. It goes beyond just leading a bird on. Starting its engine with no destination can be a blight on their health. In the words of Deadpool, they're about 80% G-spot, and they will let you know about it. And if it's not by hip thrusting your head, it's in the form of regurgitating in your ear to show their affection. In this case, it's not the bird's fault. In fact, there was one creator who went out of her way to repeatedly touch up her parrot because she thought it was funny. The whole time she was getting molested with an overachieving reptile. But there is one parrot that needs absolutely no help getting excited by humans. And you'd think this struggle parrot would pass after already getting railed by evolution. The kakapo is an indictment against all birds. It's a kiwi muppet with wings too short to soar and body too fat for flight, and they're a keel and the breastbone shy being able to fly. The kakapo also regularly forgets that they forgot how to fly, with researchers witnessing startled kakapos run up a tree and jump, only to remember gravity and faceplant on the ground. They also only breed once every 2 to 3 summers, and mothers have been known to accidentally crush eggs in the process. Safe to say the underachieving avocado chicken has nothing positive.
Avocado chicken?
Or at least they did, until humans introduced unnatural predators to their homeland. The result is that today, there's currently 240 green dodos alive and living in a few tightly controlled islands of New Zealand. But the big issue with being on nature's no-flight list is how kakapos even find a mate. The answer is the male will dig a bowl-shaped depression in the ground and make deep, booming, amorous advertisements. The good news is these calls can travel up to 3 miles away. Bad news is they gotta make these booming booty calls 8 hours a day, every day, for up to 4 months straight. And worse, like all dating apps, sometimes all they attract is a predator. So as you can guess, a lot of kakapos end up mateless and dateless. And with the
We want to talk about that last comment? He's gonna let that fly. Unlike this bird.
Now I'm questioning which part it was. The predator,
Yeah, the predator line.
Okay. Now I need to hear it again because I feel like I've missed something.
And worse, like all dating apps, sometimes all they attract is a predator. So as you can guess, a lot of kakapos end up mateless and dateless, and with the Kermit-colored bowling ball living for up to nearly a century, that is a lot of romantic buildup. So much that scientists have witnessed them try to make interspecies spanky to a seabird, a fallen tree branch, and even an extra curvy piece of driftwood. And there's another problem. In 1997, one kakapo was born in the bird sanctuary on Codfish Island, but was hand-raised by humans after nearly dying to a sickness at 3 weeks old. The parrot would survive, but would imprint on humans and show zero interest in his own kind. In fact, he would only direct his booming invitations to humans. This made him a poor breeding parrot, but an excellent ambassador for his endangered peers, and in 2009, zoologist Mark Carradine would visit Codfish Island to help shed some light on the species. In response, Sirocco the kakapo would proceed to violently mate with the back of Mark's head, a moment that immortalized both of them. Yes, that's where the shagged by a rare parrot clip came from, and Mark wasn't the only one. You see, Sirocco was a certified goon. He would even set up shop by an outhouse, so any human looking to relieve themselves would be chased by the feather felon looking to do the same, to the point where they had to put a fence around the loo. If Sirocco was anything, it was persistent, and scientists tried to take advantage of his preference with that. That is a bucket hat, lose the B and add an F, and it's designed to capture Sirocco's liquid daycare to use to help further the kakapo population. The problem is, where most birds only need a few seconds to get their rocks off, kakapo coitus can infamously last an hour. So, it didn't work. Sirocco barely cooperated, and the helmet now resides in a New Zealand museum. But kakapo numbers are on the rise, Sirocco's still alive and well, and Mark will surely never wear green around Pepe Le Parrot again. But that wasn't the first time a sensually explicit hat was used to save a species. Which is ironic, because parrots are also the closest relative of the falcon. And in the 70s, the peregrine falcon nearly got wiped out in America thanks to the widespread use of the infamous pesticide DDT. This chemical would thin the eggshells of the falcon, making them brittle enough to break when the parents would sit on them. The peregrine population would nearly flatline from about 4,000 breeding pairs down to only 324. That was until falconer Les Boyd had an idea. Human-raised falcons also become imprinted on humans, often with familiar consequences. So he came up with a bucket hat designed to collect the falcon's fetal broth for breeding purposes. But it wasn't as simple as just putting on a hat. There's a process. First, you have to wear the exact same clothes, including the hat, every time the falcon sees you, so it can get used to your outfit. Then you'd really have to get in your bag by mimicking the female falcon's vocalizations and even bobbing and bowing your upper body like a she-bird would. You'll know the falcon's catching feelings when he starts doing ledge displays and delivering food to you, which, of course, you have to accept. Eventually, time comes to collect, and that involves a male falcon flying past your head multiple times until eventually landing on your hat and proceeding to make love to your headwear. But there is no one and done. You'd have to repeat the falcon fornication process 2 to 3 times a day for up to 3 months straight. And remember, falcons are monogamous, so you're committing to a lifetime of skull bashing. Boyd's work wouldn't go wasted, as today, there's over 3,000 pairs of breeding peregrines in America, and most wild falcons in the US are descended from those captive, potentially hat-humping birds of prey. And you can thank the dedication of those falcon enthusiasts, so hats off to them, figuratively. But it wouldn't have been possible without the bird's proclivity for getting the hots for humans. In fact, science might actually prove it. In 2002, a study found that chickens might have the same preference for human faces as we do. What had happened was, scientists trained 4 hens to respond to the average human male face, and did the same for 2 roosters, except with the average female face. They did it by taking 35 male faces and merging them to create the average male face, and again, but for females, and then they would show these chickens these faces on a screen, and the hens would be rewarded with food only for pecking on the male face, and the same with roosters, but for female faces. They did this until the chickens could get it right 3 out of 4 times. Then the test actually started. This time they used 7 faces, the average male face here, and the average female face here, and they combined those 2 faces to create the average human, along with 2 faces with exaggerated female traits here, and 2 exaggerated male faces here, meaning the faces would get more feminine as you move to the right. Then they would show one of the 7 faces to the chickens at random, but this time they recorded how many pecks each face got. Think of it as like a poultry approval rate. At the same time, they took 14 college students and had them rate those same faces on a scale from 1 to 10. By taking the human ratings and the chicken pecks, they found that the humans and chickens had virtually identical answers, meaning the faces that the humans found the most attractive with no training were the ones that got the biggest reception from the chickens. But while it's interesting, it doesn't exactly prove that chickens want to bone people. But one study proved exactly that for the biggest birds on Earth. In the early 90s, a study was done to explain why ostrich farms in the UK were producing less eggs, even though farmers swore the dino birds displayed courtship behavior every time they checked. Well, it turned out, the ostriches were more attracted to people, and in the study published by British Poultry Science, 70% of the birds in one farm had displayed to humans. That display resembles an aroused Looney Tune, and it means the Jurassic drumstick wants to deliver 10 honest inches of ostrich sausage. In fact, it was believed the male spent so much time trying to solicit another species that it led to them being rejected by their own. And even if they didn't, it was proven that the ostriches got more frisky when there was a human around to watch. Some even had preferences. Some preferred men, some women, and for some, just being a person with a pulse makes you their type. I'd like to add that male ostriches can be up to 9 feet tall and weigh 300 pounds with life-canceling claws, so that's more than workplace harassment. That is a death threat. It's even a threat to the ostriches, because according to Dr. Charles Paxton, the more they yearned for humans, the less they knew what to do with their own kind, and one male nearly broke his leg trying to top a female the wrong way. And that's not the only rat tat on record trying to ravish a human. With emus, you get the same problem, with human hand raising believed to leave emus liable to assault a person. One man, Des Fallon, even learned how to attract emus by laying on his back, pedaling an invisible bicycle, and sounding like a half-expired cat. Somehow that brings all the birds to the yard, and yes, it's proven to work. Some say it mimics an injured animal and piques their curiosity, but some men have nearly been emusculated in that same position. Either way, this method seems to work on 8 out of 9 emus.
Why would you put yourself in that position?
Buddy in the back wasn't having it. But there might be another explanation, one that could be a personal problem for me. There's another theory that says emus are attracted to blacks and blues, and it's because when emus are romantically open for business, the skin below their eyes and on their necks turn a bright blue. Also, the males are the prize, because in emu culture, the females court the guys. Well, my favorite color is blue, and I wear black every day of my life, if you know what I mean. So it's possible the combination could make me look like a receptive female, which could be a problem since emus will make moves on humans even if they already have a mate. So while it's rare, the chances an amorous Australian outback turkey turns you out isn't zero. Speaking of turkey, I was once told by a hunter friend that you never want to wear bright colors like red, white, or blue, and I thought it was because you might get the attention of a gobbler. Turns out it's so you don't accidentally get Pat Tillman by a fellow hunter. But turkeys are also on morally questionable timing. Martin Sheen and Edgar Hall of Penn State conducted an experiment where they took a taxidermied female turkey to see how many features they could remove before the males rejected it. Well, they removed the tail, the feet, the wings, all until there was just a disembodied head. That didn't stop them. And it turns out the gobblers preferred a bodiless head over a headless body, and it's believed it's because the head is the only thing the male sees after they mount a female, literally because their fat pudgy body blocks the rest. So basically no head is a no-go, but the whole bird attraction thing might just be a matter of visual cues. The penguin is a great example, and another bird with highly questionable mating behavior. So much that Dr. George Levick's studies from spending an entire breeding cycle around Delhi penguins was vaulted for nearly a century for how traumatizing the things he witnessed were. But on a wholesome note, it's believed that because penguins have no natural land predators, they're not only fearless around humans, they see us as bigger, awkward penguins. And it's half true. They have to worry about aerial assaults from skuas and petrels, and in the water they're a leopard seal luncheon. Now, this doesn't apply to all penguins. The Antarctica waddlers are definitely bolder from living in a freeze-dried desert, but it's very possible for penguins to form attachments to humans. Like this famous video of Cookie the blue penguin cuddling up to people and laughing while doing it. It's adorable. Yeah, I'm really sorry to do this to you. That penguin is 100% trying to mate with that man's hand. In a couple seconds, and it would have been cookies and cream. So penguin excited to see you is most likely
I thought that was wholesomeness my entire childhood. Don't tell me that. Oh.
It's about to be cookies and cream.
Stop it. I'm gonna watch this.
Too bad. We're gonna learn about the penguins.
I want to learn
to
about
see you is most likely trying to get one off on you, and if you don't believe that, penguins have been recorded making love to the ground. To completion. But this is all lust. The question is, can a bird fall in love with a human? I don't know, but one came close. This is the white-naped crane of Mongolia and northeast China, but thanks to the loss of their wetlands, they're one of the rarest cranes in the world, with only a couple thousand left in the 90s. Luckily, Chris Crow and his wife Walnut would become a beacon to the crane cause, except Walnut was actually a white-naped herself, and her story reads like a screenplay. Walnut was born in 1981 as part of the International Crane Foundation, a foundation where humans help raise crane chicks for the wild to help boost the population. Walnut would provide a negative contribution to the census, as by age 23, she had no children and had allegedly murked 2 males, with 2 suitors found with their bellies sliced open by claws.
I'll do it again.
Allegedly. The theory is, some crane chicks wake up choosing siblicide and try to kill each other and have to be removed and separated, and it's believed that this was the case with Walnut, and all that isolation around just humans meant she imprinted on humans. But this also meant that Walnut would be condemned to live a life alone, with no chance at ever having children. Well, that was until the crane met a crow. Chris Crow had worked with California condor and wolf reintroduction programs, but in 2003, he landed in Patuxent, where his job was to raise the world's rarest crane, the whooping crane. But the whooping crane work was only seasonal, so when he was eventually offered a full-time crane keeping position at the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute, he took it. And his first avian assignment was a genetically valuable crane that was born in Wisconsin, transferred to Denver, then Cincinnati, and finally in 2004, the Smithsonian. That's when Chris Crow met a crane named Walnut. Like a true tsundere, Walnut gave Crow zero love, growling at him and flashing territorial displays at him like a full-body middle finger. But Crow also noticed that Walnut would go out of her way to ignore attention from other males, so Crow had an idea. That summer, he would perform a crane courtship dance around Walnut, and not only did she eventually fold and give in, she would initiate a classic crane love duet, which Chris would add to when no one was around. Crow would take it further by hand-delivering nest material to Walnut the way her mate in the wild would, and eventually, Walnut got comfortable enough with Chris to allow him to touch her. At one point, Walnut appeared to invite Crow to mate with her. With Walnut fully seeing Crow as her mans, Chris would go through all the motions of crane mating, except he'd artificially inseminate her with the seed of another crane. Normally, the process would involve multiple people holding the bird down, just a stressful time for everyone. But with Walnut fully committed to Chris, it couldn't be easier, and a commitment it was. Crow would go on to work with other cranes who would eventually get paired up with cranes of their own. But not Walnut, she was his. And cranes can live for 60 plus years, and losing a mate can be physically and mentally damaging, so Chris knew he was in it for the long haul. Even when Walnut was no longer part of the breeding program.
I think we can talk about whatever you get ready to say at the end.
Okay.
Because
Chris would still dance with her and would even help her incubate her unfertilized eggs. Walnut would pass away January 2nd, 2024 at the age of 42, leaving behind 8 children and of course Chris. She didn't just contribute children, her story brought eyes to the plight of the white-naped crane, who today number in the mid-6,000s. But none will ever be as special to Chris than the one named Walnut. And on that note, that's gonna do it for this video. Drink water, hug your mother, don't get inappropriate with your parrot, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.
Okay.
So
listen, guys.
As fascinating as that is, on a scientific level, we'll say that.
Uh-huh.
Say that.
Right.
On a scientific level, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That if things start to go downhill for our species,
Yeah.
there is a way to help encourage bringing them back.
Right.
Without doing like this weird genetic thing that he talked about with the dire wolf. But
listen, I'm all for, wanting to save an endangered species that's on the decline, on a fast decline and everything like that. But if the only solution that you can think of is to inseminate it yourself, however that happens.
Right.
That seems
It
weird.
seems weird.
And if I knew you in life, in person, if that was what you did at a sanctuary,
That's your job.
That's your job.
Yeah.
To fuck a bird.
Yeah.
Figuratively, not literally,
Yeah.
but kind of literally.
Because I understand.
I'm gonna call you a bird fucker, bro.
Yeah.
Like I will never let you live it down. I'm sorry. I don't care how good the cause is. That's a weird thing to say to people. Oh yeah, no, I got this one bird that I went through extensive things to make want me so that I can inseminate it to keep the species alive. Bro, how weird does that sound if someone were to tell you that out in the public, just out in the wild? You meet somebody at a party, and that's what they do all day. Yeah, it worked out great. We got 8 kids now. Already weird enough that people invented hats to catch this stuff because they were just like,
that they
hey,
would wear.
Let's not do stuff that we could try to get them to stop doing it. Let's just accept the problem as it is and just do something good out of it.
And allow them to hump our heads.
Right, no, I'm not going anywhere if I'm going to like, welcome to the sanctuary. Oh, but before you go in, you got to wear this hat. There's a 90% chance this bird is going to start mounting your head and start to do things to you. So we need you to wear this hat in case it happens. To collect the stuff. I'm not going inside. I'm going home. So kudos to any person who works at a place like this, but if you have fully accepted these kind of things in your life and you don't find it strange, you're strange to me. I'm sorry. That's weird. I was sickened but curious, and I left more sickened than curious.
Same. Same.
But shouts out to Casual Geographic for putting in the work and the research to find this out, because Lord knows I would never have.
Yeah, no.
And remember, if you too have a bird, careful where you're touching it. Thank you guys for the continued support. We will see you for the next video. Bye.